I have these books. This is one of the books. They are called The Young Folks Shelf of Books. You can't see anything. It's just too bad. I really need to see the cover of it. There's a few of them. This one's Sports and Adventure. So the other day I'm reading these books, just randomly reading them. And every time I open this one of these books randomly, I find something that doesn't seem to be random anymore. At all. One of them has a story about Gettysburg. Now, there's a girl that just was in the discussion topics for whatever reason. I don't know. Just was. Somebody we know. And immediately, the first thing I saw, it was saying Private Christie. I'm like, well, that's weird. And it got weirder. It got weirder as I went. I can't find that book exactly where I put it, because I have a few of these books and I wasn't really paying attention to which one it was. Then there was another one. And this one I want to read, but I'm not going to read it yet. I'm going to just lay it out for what it said. And then I'm going to end up with I'm going to just tell basically the sea serpent story. Because Uncanny asked, is Jesus the Leviathan? And I think that the answer to that is in this story, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, I don't know. Because if you go by this story, the answer may be yes. And I think the sea serpent is the Leviathan. I think that's what they're talking about. But these stories come from, they're like Native American traditions or something like that. So the first story is about, it's a Native American tale. And what's weird about it is that in the beginning of the story, there's a male character. He has some sort of scar on his face or something. This is weird, because I had a dream about this and I didn't put it together. And when I was reading it, I was thinking what I saw in the dream, but I didn't put it together till just right now. Because in my dream, I saw somebody have the end of their nose cut off. And in this story, it says he has a scar on his face. So this guy picks this girl. He wants to marry this girl. And they're like, well, you can't marry her. She's the property of the sun. Like Apollo or something. They didn't say Apollo because they didn't call him Apollo. And he's like, and he's really in love with this girl. He really wants to meet with this girl. So he goes on this weird journey to find the sun and ask the sun. And he goes really far. Goes to this place, and at the end of each place, he gets to where there's people, and they ask him if they know where's the location, where's the home or the house of the sun, and they tell him to go to the next place over that they may know, but they don't know there. And this goes on for a while, and it's always the same thing. And then at the end, it's like a fox or something, and the fox does know where the sun lives, and he is going to tell him. Now, when he gets over there to wherever it's at, he sees armor, like a shield, a cloak, and a sword is just laying in a pile. And he looks at it, and he just walks past it. And the next person he comes to, it might be an animal or something, because all the animals are dialoguing with the people. The animal's like, well, did you see the sword and the shield sitting there? He's like, yeah, but it wasn't mine. I didn't mess with it. And apparently that was like a virtue signal or something, because, oh, you didn't touch it. You didn't mess with the stuff. There was all this gold on the ground, this highly valued stuff. You didn't touch it. No, he did not touch it. So since he's virtue signaled or whatever properly, he's taken to meet the sun. Well, he doesn't meet the sun first. He meets the morning star, which is the child of the sun. The child of the sun is not a very experienced. He's a young man or whatever. The moon is the mom, the sun is the dad, and he spends time with them there. He has to spend some time with them there. And since he didn't mess with the items and is properly virtue signaled to the sun, because they're always trying to set us up for some sort of failure. Because you'd be a dumbass if you didn't take the stuff on one hand. In our world now, you'd be a dumbass if you didn't grab the sword and shield. What are you, a dumbass? You'd probably end up in a fight next, and you'd be dead. Everything's doubled around. It doesn't matter what you do. They almost set you up for failure. But in this case, since it's a moral tale, they tell you, oh, he's done the right thing. So he spends time with them there. They're being attacked by some sort of birds. Some sort of like evil bird attacks them, and he's able to, I don't know, I think he does kill the birds. It sounds like he cut off the head, so maybe then he got the sword and shield, because he wasn't supposed to. The Morning Star, being a little child, wasn't supposed to risk his neck by going to where the birds can get him, but he did, and somehow this guy saves him. So after a period of time, now he's all, he's practically family now with the three beings that are the Elohim or whoever parading around as gods. And he's granted and maybe she has a scar. I don't know. It might not even have been him with a scar. It might have been her with a scar on her face. So he's able to go back, and he's given the shield, the sword, and the cloak. What's weird about that is that I have those items. I have the sword, the shield, and the cloak. That was what was weird about the book, is I have the Legend of Zelda Master Sword, the Master Shield, and just a cloak. And it makes a costume. You can play in. I'm Link. Get it? Link. Who wants to check my link? So when he goes back, this is what he does. When he makes it back to his village, he just posts up at the edge of the village and doesn't move in the cloak with the sword and the shield until his people approach him and talk to him. Now, I remember hearing this before, but something about like when you approach a new place, just stand on the edge and wait till somebody comes to you. Just post up there. They did that on the ships. I think with the Vikings, they had to have somebody, if they have somebody, I don't know, it was in 13th Warrior, where the kid's on the end of the boat in the fog, and they make him do that because if there's ghosts or something, I don't know. But it was something weird like that. And whenever he was approached, they brought back in, they saw it was their guy, and ha ha ha. He gets to marry the girl, and the scar is lifted, and everyone lives happily ever after. Oh, but there's 2 feathers. They get the 2 feathers, and the man and the woman get to start the medicine lodge. Him and her. They were in love. They were the candidates to be the medicine man and the medicine woman. And it shows an image of them both with the 2 feathers in their heads, which I thought was cool, because that's another thing that I had going on. I had the 2 feathers. Anywho, so here's the one with the sea serpent is basically like this. There's some sort of primal beings. They didn't say they were people, but they were like people. And there's a spring, a sacred spring that issues from the waters of life or creation or something. wacky, zany like that, some primordial water, some magical spring. And there's three sisters. One of the sisters, the one that is in question, she is always having to look pristine and beautiful. So she's always washing her clothes. And she's washing her clothes in this fucking sacred water. Well, the sea serpent notices this and is offended. Like, why are you profaning the stream by continuing to wash her clothes there? And the dad knows she shouldn't do that, but he can't do nothing to stop her. So the sea serpent goes and turns into a child and just sits on the water. And she finds the child, and then she takes the baby and starts, acting like it's her baby. And she tells all of her family, and they think something's up. And she lives in an upstairs room of her own that has its own way to get up and stuff like that. Now she never leaves. She never leaves the upstairs room. She stays up there with the baby the whole time. And everybody's kind of weirded out by it. But in the end, this is what's weird about it. The sea serpent stretches himself out to where he stays in the room and he goes back to the sea, and the sea is connected with all the seas or something like that, something weird. And he marries the woman who's like some water goddess or something, but he says, well, I'm going to take her away with me, and she'll forget all of y'all, and she did. And he transformed into some sort of prince or something, and that was the form he was going to be in now, but he was a sea serpent or something like that. And that's what made me think it was like Jesus, because it sounded like the bride and the groom story, and the fact that he just takes the shape of whatever he needs. And he doesn't appear to be evil. He just wanted to know why the woman was profaning the spring. And it makes sense to me, because if you're Jesus and you're going to be born as a child into the earth, that's very similar to being a child just sitting on the waters, because it kind of says stuff like that in the Bible. In the end, there's a lot of the stuff that in there, and it indicates that may be the case. But I don't think that the Leviathan or the sea serpent form of that being is all that it is. But I do think, in a way, Uncanny may be right about that one. So I probably should post this and leave it there. But when I find the story, I will read it. And I think it will be easy to see that is what it leads to say. And it's a really old story. It's very obscure. It's not one that you're ever going to hear. These are really old stories. A lot of them are obscure, but they're not new. They're old, and they're not made up stories just for the book. They're gathered up stories, like how fairy tales are gathered up. And I have a symbol that says sea serpent frequency. You draw it on your back. It's a Y with two arrows. The Y goes down, and there's an arrow that will be at your spinal column bone. And I've used it. And in using it, I say yes. I say yes to you.